All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, and the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here from our studios and broadcast center in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed on classic1220.ca. Oh boy, what a great show we have lined up for you tonight, X Zone Nation. But my first guest is a lady I've had the pleasure of knowing for a number of years. I think it's going into its nearly 20 years. Her name is Patrick SIMS, and she is a minister, actress, model, and author. And we're going to be talking tonight about evil. It's a big topic these days. It seems that there is more and more evil in the world today than there has been in a very long time. We have what's going on throughout the United States and Canada. We have riots, demonstrations. We have gun violence, knife violence, family violence. Look what's happening in the Middle East. The war in Ukraine. And who knows what's going to happen next. So maybe Patrick can help us out here and better understand what is going on and what we can do in these evil times. So joining me now is my good friend, Patrick Simon. Patrick, welcome back to the X Zone.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be back with you again, Rob.
You know, it's I was looking at the information you sent us, and I'm telling you, you are one busy lady. Well, I'd like to share a few of these with my listeners. Let's just go to your Indie Man Film Fest Achievement Award 2022 in Virginia. Mike Beatty's Model and Talent Expo, first place for songwriter. Also chosen from several hundred to be a showcased singer, and that was in June 2022. 13th World Music and Independent Film Festival. Most Outgoing Achievement Award, March 2022 in Washington, D.C. Some of your television credits. You're currently in partnership with Voyage Media in Hollywood, California, collaborating on an audio podcast about your book, Eyewitnessed, and that's regarding the Camp Lejeune, North Carolina's information. And the list goes on and on and on. Where do you find time?
Well, now, Rob, it's just me. For several years, I was a caregiver for my family, and I was a caregiver in conjunction with working until about the last 5 years. And so now my husband is deceased as of October the 2nd of 2018. Our firstborn daughter is also deceased as of 2015, and my mother is deceased as of 2016, and my father and grandmother, both of them passed about 6 weeks apart in 2009, but I was power of attorney or legal guardian for all of them, and they are all deceased now. So it's just me, and I was busy then, but I'm busy now too. But I'm enjoying the experience because it's given me an opportunity to repurpose my pain, especially with what you mentioned about the collaborating about the audio podcast, because it allows me the opportunity to inform other people who have no idea why their loved ones are just deteriorating before their eyes from a plethora of diseases and illnesses like my husband and daughter did. And so it gives me a peace to know that I'm doing something that's going to also inform other people, let them know, because we didn't know until we saw on television Jerry Insminger in an interview talking about the Camp Lejeune water, the chemicals in the water at Camp Lejeune, the TCE, the PCE, the gasoline fuel, and other chemicals. And so families were eating it, drinking it, bathing in it, swimming in it, just everything, because you need water to live.
Oh, heavens, you've gone through so much. First of all, my condolences. I remember my conversations with the bishop, and he was a fantastic man. And,
yes,
God bless you. You've had it hard with all the passings in your family, and yet you've bounced back. You're so resilient. I never knew you were a model. I never knew you were an actress. I never knew that you were a great singer. How could you keep that from me? I thought I was your friend.
You are my friend, and I love you dearly. But when I started with the acting and modeling, Rob, it was just to be able to supplement my husband's income.
Right.
Because I've been a commercial lines underwriter, and I made good money, had good benefits, and I've even held a secret clearance. But when my husband got really ill, I had to become his caregiver, so I could not work outside the home. But yet, because he was not given his full disability, we were drowning in bills and medical bills. And so I was thinking, I've got to do something to help my husband. So I thought, well, if I can do some commercials, I wouldn't have to be gone long, and I could make some money doing that. So I enrolled in John Casablanca Centers for Actors and Models, and I graduated from there, and one thing led to another. So now I've been in some movies and in some commercials, and but so I didn't keep anything for you. This is really a new development. Most people at my age, I just turned 65 on December the 9th, and most people are looking for the opportunity to retire, and I've started like a new career. Excuse me, a new career. But I'm enjoying it because I love people, I love networking, and I love just telling people about Jesus and lifting their spirits and just letting them know that you can make it, you can do this no matter how difficult it is. With the help and grace of God, it can be done. And that's the only way that I can do it. I miss my people dearly. My husband, it's like he's just everywhere because he was a writer and artist. And so I have just tons of his work all around me. But I realized that because they were all saved, all 5 of my people that I was the caregiver for, and 3 of them, look, my husband and my daughter, I took care of them at the same time. I'm in the room that my husband passed in is now my office, and a room next door is the room that my daughter passed in. And I took care of the both of them for 6 weeks until my daughter passed. And then in 2016, it was 6 weeks with my husband and my mom, and they were all 3 terminal. They were all on hospice, and I would have a monitor in a room. I know with my husband and my daughter, she, because of the HER2 triple negative breast cancer, which she too is actually a victim of the toxic chemicals in the water, because she was conceived at Camp Lejeune, and she had tumors just breaking out all over her body. The cancer metastasized. Oh, God. So she had fever and was just burning up all the time. Well, my husband was a dialysis patient, so he was always cold. So I had a dilemma, but I figured it out. I bought a smaller window unit and put in the room that my daughter was in, and I closed out the vent in the room that my husband passed in, and I turned the air where it would be freezing cold for her. I had a heater in here, had him dressed warm, had a heating blanket on him. To go in my daughter's room, I literally had to put on a coat and gloves because it would be so cold, but I had to shed all that to come into his room.
Oh my goodness.
And I was back and forth. If I was in her room, I had a monitor in here, and vice versa. But I made it work, and God gave me the grace to do it. That's the only way that I can explain it, is he gave me the grace. I would never have been able to do it without the help and strength of the Lord.
See, I believe that everyone can get the grace and get the power, but they have to ask for it. Am I correct?
Yes, because a lot of people, just being a Christian doesn't mean that you're going to operate in the power. So first and foremost, they have to know what the Word of God says about who they are and who the Lord is in them, because he clearly says, I've given you power.
Yeah.
And in Luke 10:19, he talks about that. Says, I've given you power over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. Now, we realize that Christian or not, if you go out in the rain, you get wet. But you have to, if you realize who you are, then you ask the Lord. So I've asked the Lord because I want to be a good representative of him, and I want to see the same miracles, and I've seen a lot of miracles. And we've just kind of been a different breed, my husband and myself. And he, ironically, is the one who actually led me to the Lord, even though I was brought up in a religious household, a Baptist household. He was not. But he actually gave his life to the Lord on a Mediterranean cruise ship when he was in the Marines. And when he got back home, we got married. We were just babies. I was 17. He, shortly after that, turned 19. So we're about 2 years apart. And we got married.
Yeah.
And he had this dream about the world ending. And there was this boat, but the world was on fire. It was not water. The world was on fire. And we got lost from each other. People were everywhere. And he was looking for me. And he found me, grabbed my hand. We ran into the ark of safety. And as soon as we got in the ark, the door closed. And he woke up and he told me, he said, baby, I want us to live our lives for Jesus. I don't want to die and go to a hell that wasn't even prepared for man. And it was like the lights came on. Even though I had always been in church, I was always a worker. I counted myself a good moral person. But when he said that, I realized I needed to give my life to the Lord. I was religious, but I had no relationship. And that day, I gained a relationship with the Lord, and at 17 years of age, and he has never failed me.
Patrick,
that doesn't mean that things have gone my way.
Right.
They have not, a lot of the time, but he never promised that. He never promised that we were going to be comfortable.
Patrick, I've got to
Yes.
take my first break. Please stand by, dear. Exonation, my guest is a good friend of mine. Her name is Patrick SIMS. I also had the pleasure of knowing her husband. A great lady, a real great lady, and we're going to be back on the other side of this break as we continue talking to Patrick. We're going to talk about the evil in the world today and much more. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone, and you're listening to us on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streaming on classic1220.ca.
Not a free man, but neither am I chained. And I am not a wise man, but neither am I rearranged. I not a new man, but neither am I old. I am not a rich man, but I cannot be sold. I am one.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I'm Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. That is a good song by Valdy, a great Canadian artist, and my guest this hour is a lady I've had the pleasure of knowing. I think it's 13 or 14 years now, Patrick, and her website is manaministries.com. We were talking about your husband, your daughter, and your parents, and you've been through quite a lot, and yet you've always kept your faith. And there seems to be so much negative energy in the world today. People call it negative energy. I call it evil. And why are we seeing so much of it now at this point in time in history?
I believe because with my study of the Bible, I am seeing so many more prophecies fulfilled. You know, people have said for years that, y'all have been talking about the Lord is going to return, and he hasn't returned yet. But what I'm seeing now, we're closer than what we have ever been, even like with what we see going on in Israel and those attacks and just all over the world. The things that are happening. It's like everything is escalating, but Revelation tells us that about the last days when Satan, he realizes that his time is short. So he is on the warpath against everybody, even though, because he knows that his time is short. So he's trying to wreak as much havoc as he possibly can. But the missing ingredient, the main ingredient, is that we have taken God out of everything, and then we blame God for everything, all the evil and all the wrong things that are happening. But when I look back, when I was a little girl and in school, we actually could have class. There were no class clowns that didn't get spanked.
That's
and
right.
Because they would get spanked, that would discourage any other from wanting to be class clowns. And we had prayer and scriptures and pledge of allegiance. And we were taught the, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And then with all of that taken out, it just became open season on everybody. I remember meeting the son of Madeline Murray O'Hare at a church here, actually, in the 80s, at a church in Lawton, Oklahoma. It was called the Rock Church. And he had gotten saved, even though his mother had been an atheist, and he grew up an atheist, but he loved his mother. But he was just sharing with us that night how his mother tried to actually defect to Russia because she wanted to go where people believed like she did, and they would not accept her. So she decided that she was going to come back and change America. And one lady, she's the reason that prayer was taken out of school in the first place, because Christians were not paying attention, not thinking that anything like this would ever happen here. So nobody was paying attention. So she got this evil accomplished. And to me, that started it all, having prayer taken out. And then nobody wanting anything to do with the Bible. And I remember when I was a substitute teacher for many years here in Oklahoma, I remember a girl in my class sneezed, and the students they said, "Oh, Miss Sims, don't say that," because I said, "God bless you."
Yes.
And they said, "Oh, no, don't say that, because one of the students is an atheist, and so our team leader has told all of the rest of the groups that we can't say God and Jesus. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. So I went off
Oh,
on
for
a
goodness
rant.
sake.
I mean, I was like, they was like, we don't want you to get locked up, because they loved me, because they knew that I loved them. And I would correct them in love and not let them do what they wanted to do. So they were afraid if I said that I was going to get locked up. And I was just so upset. I said, well, lock me up, because nobody is going to tell me that I can't say Jesus is the one that gave me my mouth. And I was seeing, this was like the beginning of the same thing that was happening with the disciples. But my point is this: if it's not real, why are you trying to just make it of none effect?
Yeah,
Why are
exactly.
you fighting it so hard if it's not real? If God is not real, if Jesus is not real, okay, it's not real. What you worried about?
Exactly. When
And
I
so,
when I was going
but
to when I was
that's what started it.
when I
Taking God out of everything, and it's gotten worse. But we haven't seen anything yet, my friend. We haven't seen anything like what we are going to see in these last times.
when I was going to school, we it was regimented. It wasn't strict. It was regimented. There were common sense rules. For example, all the boys had to wear gray flannel pants, a white shirt, and a tie. This was from grade 1 right up until the end of high school. The girls wore basically the school tunics, and then in high school it changed to a colored dress code for what they could wear. Now, what this did is it put everybody on the same level of the playing field. That was number one. Number two, we always called the teacher Mr. or Miss or Mrs.
Yes.
Respect. Number three, the school when the bell rang, you went into the school, you stood up and sang "O Canada" or "God Save the Queen," and then it was the Lord's Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first class was Scripture. And when you look back in history, and I'm talking, like, see, I'm 72, so we're talking nearly 60 years ago. We didn't have the problems that we have today.
Right.
And I had Pastor Harry Walther on the show many years ago, and we were talking about end-time prophecies, and he said, Rob, the mark of the devil is not 666. I said, well, it says, yeah. He says, no, Rob, it's WWW, the advent of the internet.
That's interesting.
The world certainly has changed, and
Yes.
So what do we do, Patrick? Why is Satan, or the evil forces, trying to take over the world now, especially since they've tried it so many times before and it hasn't worked? Why do they think they can get away with it now?
Yeah. The enemy is never going to give up. Christians could learn some things from him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't quit, no matter what. He keeps coming back. He did the same thing with Jesus, but Jesus always gave him the word of God back, and that's what we have to do also. Mm-hmm. We do what we can, even if it's just signing a petition. We should do what we can, even if it's just signing a petition, even if it's voting, though a lot of people don't even believe in that anymore, because there's just so much scamming that's going on in every venue. But he's not going to stop until the Lord actually shuts him down. When the church returns after the rapture, at the end, when Armageddon is taking place, Satan is not going to stop until he is locked up. And of course, he'll be locked up for 1,000 years and be let back out for a short season, and then be cast into the lake of fire along with the false prophet.
Sure.
And but he's not going to stop. He's a bad devil. And from the time that he decided that Isaiah tells us about it in Isaiah 54, he wanted to be God. And he was already like God in so many ways, an archangel and leader, leading the choir, if you will, in heaven, built-in pipes of music. But that wasn't enough for him. He wanted to ascend to the place of God. And that's in his heart. Now, Jesus said in Luke, he told the disciples that he saw Satan fall like lightning. In Luke 10:18, he saw him fall like lightning. And so he has this vendetta against God. So he couldn't defeat God. So he tries to hurt God by doing things with his people, causing his people, people of God to sin and to be evil. He leads them down wrong paths. So he's not going to stop ever until the Lord stops him.
Now, a lot of people may just be tuning in to us here on Classic 1220 and listening to this conversation and saying, it's a paranormal show. Why are they talking religion? Well, listeners, if you're wondering that, the Bible, as well as every other religious philosophical book out there, is filled with mysteries. It's filled with the paranormal. Religious philosophy is based on spirit. And we talk about spirits on the show at the different haunted locations. When people have near-death experiences, when mediums communicate with the other side. So it's not that we're talking about religion, which we are, but this isn't a religious show. What we're doing is what I am doing, is I am bringing this guest on to give me her personal experience and interpretation of events. And by no means am I or my guest trying to take away any other belief out there, because as Canadians, we all have our right to believe.
Right.
And belief is the strongest power in the universe. So what we're trying to do tonight is take a look at evil from a lady who has been in the pulpit. She is a true believer. And this is why we are doing what we're doing tonight. And I agree with you that it's people want to take God or take any other deity, for lack of a better word, out of society. And yet it's God, Allah, Buddha, and all of these other prophets who have tried their very best to maintain society and to maintain humanity in a way that we can all get along, because they all teach the same word, love. You and I have to take our break. Please stand by, my friend. Patrick SIMS is our special guest. Her website is manaministries.net. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on Classic 1220. Don't go away.
I am not a free man, but neither am I chained. And I am not a wise man.
T'es mon amour, je suis ta maîtresse. T'es tout ce que je veux, t'es tout ce que j'ai voulu. T'es mon amour de la tête aux fesses. Et plus ça va, le plus t'es mon ami. Une bonne fois, si tu veux, je te montrerai sans tricher un côté de moi. Comme
And welcome back. That was Jeanette Reynaud with Jean-Pierre Ferlin singing Tu mon amour, tu ma maîtresse. And of course, that is two great French-Canadian artists from Montreal. I had the pleasure of seeing her many years ago, and she was one fantastic lady. I loved her voice then, and I still do now. Patrick Sim is my special guest, Exonation. Her website is mannaministries.net. And you were telling me during the break that there was something you wanted to talk to the audience about.
When you were asking about why is it that the enemy, Satan, doesn't stop? And there's a scripture in Ephesians 6:12 that says, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, and against spiritual wickedness in the heavenly places. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of things that's happening, people are being influenced by these particular spirits because they are over regions, there's ruling entities over every country, and some they're stronger in some areas than they are in other areas. And so we will be continually confronted with that, but there is a way to rebuke them, if you will. I do it as a Christian because I've had some extreme supernatural experience. We've had the opportunity, my husband and myself, to cast demons out, and it was like something that you would see on television, like what you've seen in The Exorcist.
Really?
People, and I'm thinking of one guy in particular, Rob. When we were in Augsburg, Germany, he came in. We were having a choir rehearsal, and everything was fine until he came in. And our leaders, it was a husband and wife team, and they didn't know what was going on, but they knew that it wasn't us, but the atmosphere shifted. So they sent us all back to our seats in the pews and said, we're just going to pray and just praise the Lord. And so I was in the very last pew, but this guy, Joe Green, he sat in the pew behind myself and another minister that was sitting on that pew. And he got loud, so I thought, okay, well, he must be worshiping, praising the Lord too, because we clap, we sing. But then I realized it was something strange. He fell out and knocked the pew back, and it wasn't a short pew, it was one of the long ones. He fell out and he began to move with all ease on his back like a serpent. And he moved from the wall to the middle aisle. And so the same couple who were very well versed in the things of God and in situations like this. Well, I was just coming into the knowledge of this, but I understood that he was demon possessed, but I also understood that I had power to cast him out. And because I was a young minister, but I had learned that much. And so we cast the devil out, but I actually, and there are other witnesses, the whole choir were able to witness that. When we were casting the demon out, the demon in a guttural voice, just heinous, he said, no, he's mine. And he said it like evil. It sounded really evil, like it was coming out of the pit of his stomach. This guy's, his eyes were green, strange looking. He was spitting up. A slime was coming out of him, and his tongue was moving like a snake as his body moved like a snake. But George, who was very seasoned in the word of God, told the demons, you don't have a choice. We command you to come out. And I don't know how long we were there. It might have been an hour, but finally the demons came out, and the guy, you knew that he was delivered, that he was no longer the host for that demonic spirit, because he blinked and his eyes were normal and natural again. He got up off the floor. He went around the side up to the front of the church got down on his knees, lifted his hands up in the air, and began to declare, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. Nobody knew him, but I will never forget his name. His name was Joe Green. So it's real. And a lot of people are delving into things and they don't know that they can attract demonic entities into their lives, because when people commit suicide, that's not natural.
No.
That's not natural. But if you don't understand, and sometimes people do it because of mental illness and sometimes a medication that they have taken, but for those people that are saying the devil made me do it, they really are being influenced by demons, and they don't really understand how to combat that. Well, we can't combat it in our own strength. Adam and Eve found that out, but God always has a remedy. He always has a ram in the bush, and that's why Jesus had to come, so that he could stomp out what the enemy had started. I mean, Satan had taken the title deed of the earth from Adam, but with what Jesus did, with his death, his burial, his resurrection, his ascension, when he rose, he said that he gave power to the church, and that the gates of hell would not prevail against it. And it won't, when we know the power that he has given us and when we exercise that power. And that's how my husband and I have been able to help people that have, for whatever reason, opened themselves up to demonic spirits. I was in a line at Walmart one day, and this lady was just frantic. The cashier, there was 4 people ahead of me, and she was checking them out. And she didn't know these people, but she was asking everybody if they understood about demons and could they help her. And nobody knew what she was talking about. Then when she asked me, and I told her, yes, I do know and understand. And she begged me, please, can you come? Will you help us? Well, my husband had dialysis that day, and we do believe that you go out in twos, but she was desperate. And so I thought, well, I know the power of God. I'm not afraid, so I'm going to go. Well, my husband said, baby, let me calibrate, and I'm going to go with you. Well, we went, and to make a long story short, when we looked around the house and everything, we didn't see anything, but they were terrified. Every night, they were hearing a ball and chain dragging around in the attic. She had a grown daughter, a young daughter, and a young son, and none of them were younger than 13. But they were so terrified that they all slept in the same room, even though there were other bedrooms and, living room, kitchen, and everything. But they were afraid. And so we led them out to the Lord, and we investigated. So what we found out was in the attic, there was a pentagram that was so big that the landlord had to get an axe to go up there to cut it up, to bring it down. And one of the neighbors across the street, the first night after we left, was telling her that there was always a 5-pointed star in the window burning. And they didn't know any of that. But once that was removed and we prayed over them and prayed over the house, I saw her a few weeks later, and she was smiling and she was happy, and she said everything is still okay. We haven't had any of those issues. Now, the only person that actually saw the demonic entities was the young son. The rest of them did not see it, but they heard all of it. So it's real. It's real. Even people who, whether they believe in God or not, whether they accept the fact that there's a real devil, I think most people do realize that there is another realm. There are things that happen that are unexplainable. And so it's real. And the thing about it is whether we believe it or not, doesn't take away the strength of the truth of the matter that is real and that it happens.
Unreal.
And we've just had, just one experience after the other. A lady was living with us as our live-in babysitter. She was from Michigan and became my best friend. But it's a long story, but the short of it is she had grand mal seizures, and she would just, everywhere she went, it just seemed like evil things happened. And it was really wearing me out. I learned that she was sent of the devil to destroy me. But an FBI agent told me that a lot of the things that she did, I had to have a meeting with FBI agents in Mississippi because I identified her, not knowing that I identified her. And I realized that I'm skipping some stuff right now, but they are the ones who told me that she was actually in love with me. So a lot of the issues that I was having, that my family was having, was because she was trying to get rid of my family. She tried to have my younger kids elementary age, like kindergarten and second grade. She tried to have them kidnapped twice. She tried to set my husband up, paid a woman to call on my job, call me on my job, call me in church, call me at home. And she knew all about my life, but she was doing all of that so I would divorce my husband because I would think that he was having an affair. But this woman had had so many demons. I think she had legions when we were here in Oklahoma, because when she would be around us, she could be in our presence for 4 hours. There would be nothing. She could go into the bathroom, take a shower, and the kids would say, "Mom, she fell, Sister Vic fell." And I go in, she's out. Head is all blooded. I have to take her to the emergency room. Every week, I was having to take her to the emergency room because she couldn't no longer have a driver's license. Well, one night, and I was thinking, God, you got to show me what's going on here. So I went on a 3-day fast and sought the Lord. And so one night,
all right, Patricia, we're gonna have to stop you here because I do have to take my final break. So please stand by. Okay. Exonation, Patrick Sims is our special guest. Her website is manaministries.net. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in a very cold and icy evening outside. I wouldn't want to be driving all the way to Toronto tonight, even for a hockey game. No thanks. Safe and warm and talking to my friends right here from our studios on Classic 1220 and streaming around the world on classic1220.ca. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Closing time, open all the doors and let you out into the world. Closing time, turn all of the lights on over every boy and every girl. Closing time, one last call for...
Well, it's really not closing time. It's the end segment of this hour. We'll be back on the other side of the top of the hour news, as we'll continue here on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and around the world on classic1220.ca. My guest this hour is Patrick Sims, and her website is manaministries.net. First of all, Patrick, before we go any further, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us here tonight. And I want to congratulate you on everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
We were talking about the lady that you had as a live-in babysitter. She was a real troublemaker for you. And how did you How did you solve the problem? Did you actually exorcise the evil out of her?
I did, and it wasn't revealed to me until I went on that fast because it was so many strange things happening. She would get beat up. She was a hardworking person,
Mm-hmm.
but she would just get beat up by people. She was riding a bicycle. I would get a phone call
Right.
from the convenience store that she's in the middle of the street, passed out from a seizure, and the bike's in the middle of the street. And so, and I didn't know that it was her doing a lot of the things. Like she actually turned me in false. It was a lie,
Mm-hmm.
but she turned me into the Department of Human Services and
Holy
said
cow.
that I was abusing my 3-year-old son and just a whole lot of things that she did. But I found out why. But that particular night, um, I was sitting there. There was a light on in the hallway and a light on in the kitchen. And I was ending my fast that third day. This was the night. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was just sitting there, just kind of meditating. And I knew she was in the kitchen. And while sitting there, I saw this tall, black, dark figure like try to dart down the hall without me seeing it. And I thought, And I asked her, I said, where are you? And she said, I'm in the kitchen. I said, that's what I thought. I said, I need you to come and go with me to your room. We went to her room and I closed the door. My kids were in their room. I laid hands on her stomach. I laid hands on her throat and her head, her ears. And I commanded those demons to come out. I said, you have been found out. You come out of her right now in Jesus' name. She didn't growl. She didn't make any faces, none of that. So I went back to sit down and I wasn't looking for that, but I went to sit back down and she did too. And we were just talking. About 20 minutes later, she said, she used to call me mommy, even though she was like close to the same age as me. Mommy, my stomach is hurting really, really bad. And she went to the bathroom and she began to vomit. And she was doing it so much that the kids called me and said, she's sick. When I opened the door, she was throwing up. Now, mind you, she was on a forced fast. She had just gotten the stitches removed from her mouth. They had to wire her mouth shut with a plate because of grandma's seizures, and she was only able to sip a little bit through a straw. So she was on a forced fast, so there was no food there. It looked like she was throwing up pasta. So it was red, it was yellow, it was brown, it was green, until finally, after several days of her throwing up like that, it became clear. But it looked like spaghetti noodles. It looked like lasagna. It looked like tortellini. It was just, I never seen anything like that before in my life. But what I realized was that she had demons nesting in
Ooh.
her. And this went on for like 6 weeks, a little bit more at a time, a little bit more at a time. But after that time, she was actually able to get driver's license again because she stopped having seizures. She was having the seizures because of the demons that had infested her. And I believe she had legions because my house, and I'm a very clean person, I use Lysol, Pine Sol, bleach, and that stench. It was sulfuric. It smelled like sulfur or death, just something dead. It took months before we got that smell out of our house. It was just really, really intense. So it's real. It's real. Demons can vex a person, they can oppress a person, and they can possess. They can possess. And she was definitely possessed.
Patrick, I want to talk to you about your book. What's it? Eyewitnessed. Believe what you cannot see. Tell us about it.
I started that. I didn't really feel like I was qualified, and I had no aspirations to write a book. But as I was watching my husband bleed profusely after having brain surgery, he had Hodgkin's lymphoma,
Oh, God bless him.
and the surgeon would not come. We were in Mississippi, and there were only 2 in Meridian, and 3 days he's bleeding. But now, mind you, for 2 weeks prior, they had given him a couple of blood transfusions trying to strengthen his emaciated body. So now he's bleeding profusely, and so much so that all of the bandages and the towels and the pillowcases, they had to throw them in the trash. Well, I was afraid that he was going to bleed out and just die. So I told them, we're leaving. I'm taking him to UAB in Birmingham because they knew his case better. And then suddenly the surgeon showed up to do another surgery. Well, I didn't want them. He had already done 2. And I didn't want him touching my husband, but my husband was so calm. He was so calm. I was the one upset. He just lay there, and he was telling everybody, all you're doing is pressing more blood out of my head. And he said, well, baby, don't worry. They have to do this. I can't go to UAB. It was a 3-hour drive. I can't go like this. So they did another surgery and tied up what was loose in his head. They didn't have to go into his skull. So anyway, while I'm watching him, I felt impressed of the Lord to start keeping a journal to write a book. And this was October of 2003. I didn't know that once we got to Alabama that I was going to watch my husband die. But he warned me what was going to happen and not to pull the plug. So I didn't, even though they told me like 6 hours later, he's not here. You need to pull the plug, or you're going to have this outrageous bill and so on and so forth. And I said, no, you do what you can do. I'm going to do what I can do. So my youngest daughter and I, and her baby, 2 years old, we went to the chapel and we laid out for 2 hours, and we stayed there talking to the Lord until we knew that we knew that we knew. And we held hands when we were allowed to go in to see him. But on the 3rd day, the doctor, the surgeon said that he took himself, that Ken took himself off the ventilator. And that was in 2003. He told us when he was going to die. And so October the 2nd of 2018 is when he passed. But we have several witnesses that he told when he was going to pass. And we actually had a conversation. He decided to leave because he said it was taking a toll on my body and breaking me down, and he didn't want that. So that night, September the 28th, I lay in the bed by him, and we cried and we talked, and he said the next morning I'm going on hospice. He didn't change his mind, and he said by supper time I'll be in heaven, I'll be with Jesus. And then he changed his mind, and I'll tell you later, Rob, why he changed his mind to Wednesday. And I asked him, I told him, I said, baby, you know, we've been together 47 years. I don't ever want you to go, but tell me why you changed your mind till Wednesday. And he told me. And then what he was looking for came early. So I told him, I said, baby, we got it. And this was, so he passed on a Tuesday. I told him, you don't have to wait till Wednesday because he was in torment. And I didn't want to see him like that. And I said, you can go on and be with this Jesus that you love so much. And he did. And we were around this bed, my daughter, her daughter, and myself. And pastors were here as well with us. And we sang him into the presence of the Lord. But this one beautiful thing that happened, I kept going out the room because I knew he was passing, and till finally my daughter said, Mom, get in here. And I could tell she meant do not leave again. But every time I came back in, I would kiss him or say something. And even though I knew he was leaving, he would stop and just look at me like, you want to say something else to me? And so finally I told him that 3rd time, I said, baby, I can't help myself. You go on, no matter what I do, don't come back. You go on, and I'm going to be okay. And he did. So it was amazing. He was an amazing man of faith. He had out-of-body experiences where he was actually in the throne room of heaven. He had he died on more than one occasion. I stopped counting uh, how many times he died. But we've had a lot of tragedy, but we've had a lot of blessings. And I'm grateful for all of the good things, all of the testimonies, all of the miracles. And my book is about a lot of miracles in spite of our exposure to the toxic chemicals in the water at Camp Lejeune.
You know, we've got about a minute and a half left, Patrick. What are your final thoughts? What would you like to share with the X Zone Nation?
I just like for people to know that I love them and that it's important to me as an evangelist. I tell as many people as possible about Jesus because I found out that when people give their lives to Jesus, they don't want to commit evil anymore. And even though it's a process because we're all on different levels and we're all dealing with demonic spirits in different ways, but when they fall in love with Jesus, they want to do the right thing. And so I would just encourage people to let's spread love. There's so much hatred in the world, and I try to spread as much love to as many people in as many countries as I possibly can everywhere I go. I'm telling people about Jesus, and I'm telling them that I love them. No matter who they are, I tell them I love you, and Jesus loves you too.
Patrick, as always, time goes by so fast whenever you're with us. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Continued success, and please don't be a stranger. Come back again and visit us. And God bless you, my friend.
God bless you too. I love you, and you just call me when you want me back.
All right, my dear friend. All right, my dear friend. Take care of yourself, and my regards to everyone whose heart you touch on a continuous basis.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good
Be
night.
blessed.
Blessings. Bye-bye now. Well, that's it for tonight, X Zone Nation. I'll be back on the other side of this break coming up. One more hour, because we're here with you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. until midnight. We're right here. Your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. My name's Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. We'll be back after this short pause. Don't go away.